have been called. I must answer. Always.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Bjorn, and today we are going to be looking at a Reinhardt character build. This is just a concept. I suggest not bringing in Reinhardt's character exactly into your own game. Make your own backstory and whatnot. Make the character your own. This is just something of a play style so that you can be your team shield or something lame like that. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. So as you can see over here, we're in the ability score. So this is because this character is going to require both feats and multiclassing. For the minimum requirements of the multiclass, you're going to require a strength of 13 and a wisdom of 13. This is so you can multiclass into both fighter and cleric. Besides that, there will be no other multiclassing. As well, these are just the absolute optimal stats that I felt like you could take. If you could somehow get 3 18s from rolling, congratulations. If not, I would focus primarily on your strength and your constitution, and your wisdom should be your third highest stat, whatever you get. Now, if we come over here to race, you can see that we chose the human variant. For the languages, this doesn't matter all too much. Choose whatever befits your character's backstory. For the ASI, I would suggest going with constitution and strength. In this case, we are now at 19 in both scores. And for the skills, I would suggest taking intimidation. This way you can have some sort of role outside of combat. And even though our charisma may not be that high, if you play it outright, you may be able to substitute your strength for your charisma score. And as for the feat, as you can see here, we took the heavy armor master, increasing our strength score by 1. This will get us up to a 20 strength off of level 1, which is pretty fucking amazing. As for our background, I felt that it would be best for myself to go with the Acolyte background. This gave me the religion and the persuasion skill proficiencies, as well as 2 languages of my choice. This is, of course, up to you. This character isn't focused so much on skills as he is being a support utility tank to his team. And as we come over to our class over here, we can see that we decided to go into the fighter to start. We took the fighter all the way up from level 1 to level 5, and we're going to go over some of our choices here. For our beginning proficiencies at level 1, I would suggest taking athletics and insight. As for our fighting style, I chose protection here. Felt like a pretty easy choice. As for other abilities here, like second wind and action surge, I'm not going to go over too in depth with them right now. I'm just going to quickly get over the character choices that I would recommend that you take while leveling. I will go into depth afterwards after the character build and explain my choices as to why I picked these things. As for our third level, we get our martial archetype. I suggest going with Battle Master. We get a few maneuvers. I would say take Commander Strike, Distracting Strike, and Sweeping Attack. For our Student of War, take the Smith's Tools. As for our 4th level ASI, we went ahead and chose another feat. We took the Shield Master feat. This is when we start to multi-class into our Cleric. We go from level 1 Cleric all the way up to level 8 Cleric. As for our Divine Domain, it's pretty easy choice. You go with the War Domain. As for our ASI at 4th level Cleric, we are now level 9, I believe. We are actually going to go ahead and take an ability score improvement. We're going to choose both Constitution and a Wisdom score improvement. As for our final ASI at 8th level Cleric, we are now level 13th total. We are going to go ahead and choose the Warcaster feat. With our Cleric 8 out of the way, we will get into spell choices at the end. We're going to go ahead and go back into the Fighter Battle Master, and we're going to take this from level 5 all the way up to level 12. As we're leveling, we're going to be getting a couple extra maneuvers. I would recommend for our 7th level maneuvers, you go ahead and choose the Trip Attack, as well as the Maneuvering Attack. And as for our 10th level maneuver choices, we're going to go ahead and choose the Evasive Footwork, and we are also going to be choosing the Disarming Attack. For our 6th level ASI, we are going to be choosing another feat. This feat that we will be choosing is the Resilient Wisdom. As for our 8th level Fighter ASI, we choose another feat. For this feat, I really like the idea of Sentinel. There is argument for taking Mage Slayer here, preferably. And then there's also very small room for the Charger feat, because Reinhardt does have the charge ability within Overwatch, which puts him in some pretty vicarious spots, and I feel that feat may do the same thing here. so I felt it wasn't that good of a choice for us. However, if you really, really, really desperately want that charger feat, go for it. As for our 12th level ASI and Fighter, and this is us at level 20 now, we are going to be choosing yet another feat. This feat, I really like the Resilient 2 Dexterity. So that was the quick build of how to have something that would be more of akin to Reinhardt. I didn't get into the explanations as to anything. We're about to get into that, but we'll do a quick overview here of what you'll have, well, what I have, for example. So as you can see here, I have a +5 to our strength, to our con, and to our wisdom. We have 4 saving throws, which is pretty fucking amazing. We have a whole arsenal of maneuvers that we can use, a couple of unique reactions. We don't have all too many skills. This character isn't so focused on, you know, things that are outside of combat necessarily. Of course, you can make it so that this character is recommended equipment. Of course, you're going to want a plate +3 and a shield +3. By level 20, you should be able to get this stuff. I mean, it may take some time, but you're going to have the money and the resources to be able to do it. It'll put you up to 26 AC. As for your main weapon of choice, I would recommend going with a Warhammer. And when I get into the deeper overview after this, we'll explain how you may be able to use a maul in one hand. Alright, and with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and move off into the deeper overview, get into why I picked out different feats, different attributes, and why I went with a fighter over a paladin, for example, for Reinhardt, because initially my thoughts were paladin, Reinhardt, you know, makes sense. Realizing now that's more of a Brigitte. Yeah, let's go ahead and look into this. So let's go ahead and start off with our variant human race. Now the reason why we chose variant human is because I believe we lost out on a feat that we got to choose because of our multi-classing. This helped us gain back the heavy armor master. And while the strength score here is very, very nice, of course, the biggest part of this is in fact the reduction of damage from bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage by 3 points. The reason why 3 is such a huge number is because after 10 hits to you, that's 30 damage that you didn't take. That's healing that your healers don't need to do. That adds to their action economy so that they can provide healing or utility or damage output to anything on the battlefield, and it's overall just makes you tankier, it makes you more survivable. Now if we come over to our class here, we're going to go ahead and look at the Battle Master. We'll look at this as we leveled because I felt like I should give an explanation. So for our first 5 levels, we went from Fighter 1 to Fighter 5. So with our proficiencies, I felt like it was pretty obvious we wanted to go with Athletics because we want to provide, you know, that physique, that physical side of what our group may not have. Insight, I generally just really like Insight. I also felt like it'd be fitting, again, that old wise warrior. Our fighting style, Protection, this is an amazing, amazing tool to have. Not only does it make it easier for melee characters to be up in the fray and you can impose a disadvantage on attacks against them, but it would also help possibly, say, a caster that got into melee by accident or someone's up there and they want to leave, but leaving would provoke an opportunity of attack, but and they don't want to take the disengage action because they still want to do something. This would allow them to leave and have a disadvantaged roll against them as they leave because you're imposing that disadvantage with your shield. So this is a pretty amazing fighting style. Now, Second Wind it doesn't seem like much healing, but again, this is healing that you can do that your healers don't necessarily need to do. So this again adds to the action economy of it just being a bonus action. This is pretty decent sized potion at 12th level fighter. I mean, it's a D10 plus 12. And yeah, so the more you can self-sustain, the better. Granted, Reinhardt doesn't necessarily have those abilities, but again, this is something where, you know, like translating an Overwatch character into a Dungeons and Dragons character, it's not going to be perfect. Now at second level, we get our Action Surge. Action Surge is fucking huge. This is an amazing ability. So we don't get our 2 uses of Action Surge because we never get to 17th level, but the one at use is pretty decent. So this helps with our action economy, of course. And the way I see it too is that if whatever is attacking your group can no longer attack your group because it's dead, you're protecting your group. There's other ways of protecting your group other than just buffing or healing them. literally by killing things quicker, you can protect your group. Now, our martial archetype at 3rd level gives us the Student of War choice. I decided to go with Smith's Tools because I felt like there may be a way to roleplay out so that we could use a two-handed maul, for example, within one hand without disadvantage. You can already use a two-handed maul in one hand. You would just impose disadvantage on yourself with everything. So you could, go about with that, and there's ways that the class will allow it to not be so penalizing for us later on once we get into the War Domain Cleric. I would ask your DM and see if there's a way for a long play in which you can develop something that would allow you to more easily maneuver a two-handed in one hand. So it may not even be Smith's Tools, for example. You could go with the Tinker's Tools route, and maybe you could attach a rocket onto a hammer, because that sounds like a smart idea, right? Also, with our 3rd level, we gain 3 maneuvers of our choice. I decided to go with Commander Strike and Distracting Strike and Sweeping Attack. Sweeping Attack just for more damage and mobbing, if needed. Distracting Strike because it gives advantage to your other party members, which they'll fucking love you for that. And for a Commander Strike. But this is where I really want to delve into what Reinhardt really is in Overwatch. So, I'm sure many Overwatch players know, Reinhardt is a tank, and there's tanks and supports, and then there's DPS. So with tanks and supports, they're force multipliers. I'm not the best at explaining this. I would go watch Jane if you really want to get into it, but anyways. Alright, so let's quickly get into a brief overview of what a force multiplier is, and a little bit of how Overwatch works. So for example, we have a DPS on our team, we have a support, and we have a tank. So our DPS is considered the force, and the tank and the support are considered force multipliers. Through proper tanking and proper support, we can increase the output of our force's damage. So with this, for example, we can go ahead and with Distracting Strike give advantage to one of our other teammates. This will obviously, help them possibly get a critical hit, whatnot, whatever. Commander Strike, being able to just allow one of your more deep damage-orientated allies to just outright attack with their reaction whenever on your turn. This also possibly provides maybe some goodwill between you and your party, because you're not so much focusing on your own damage output, you're focusing on helping others survive and dish out some cool fucking damage, which who doesn't like to do that? As for our 7th level maneuvers, I decided to go with Trip Attack. Knocking something on its ass gives melee characters advantage on their attacks. Doesn't give ranged advantage, so if you're in a range heavy group, be careful of Trip Attack. And also Maneuvering Attack, being able to get one of your party members in and out of harm's way of something, very, very useful to have, protecting them even further. At 10th level, we gain our Evasive Footwork. This is primarily for ourselves. At this point, our superiority dice is a D10, and at level 20, we have 26 armor class. So if we roll a 10 on our superiority die, all of a sudden we're at a 36 AC, and we could probably run through 90, pretty much everything. A lot of shit is just not going to hit you without a natural 20. They're just not going to hit you. It's fucking amazing. Disarming Attack. This is the one that I said that you may want to take sooner, because disarming someone of something valuable, a all-powerful staff that's going to kill people or some bullshit. I don't know. This one may be one that you want to take a Maneuvering Strike out and put that one there last. So it's very dependent on what you feel is going to be necessary for you as you're leveling. For 4th level ASI, we want a Shield Master. This was just so that we can gain the shove ability, which we had before, but we can use it as a bonus action now, which isn't too bad. And mostly just for the adding the shield's AC to a dexterity saving throw. It's pretty fucking big, because once we come down to here, if we are subject to an effect that allows us to make a dexterity saving throw to take only half damage, you can use a reaction to take no damage if you succeed on a saving throw, interposing your shield between yourself and the source of the effect. So this essentially is a rogue's evasion ability all of a sudden, and you get this at level 4. That's impressive. That's a lot of damage that you're not taking. And then there could also be if you talk to your DM about this, there may be a way to possibly extend this It's a bit more of a homebrew territory here. You could possibly extend it to like maybe a halving effect of damage that your allies take that are directly behind you within 5 or 10 feet. Maybe there could be a shield that you could talk to your DM that might exist in this world, a unique artifact. You know, this is something that you can look forward to and role play out and figure out how you can be more of that shield, more of that protective figure for your party members. And at our 5th level, we get our extra attack. Of course, this is our action economy. Killing shit quicker is great, and yeah, more maneuvers that we can do. This is fantastic. And then we, from 5th level on, we exit the fighter class. I felt this was an appropriate dropping off point in which we would be able to be versatile enough within our tool sets that we have already to multi-class into the Cleric and feel comfortable knowing that we would be able to keep up with our group. So with Cleric 1, we choose the War Domain. Pretty fucking nifty little domain it is there because we gain the War Priest ability. So with this, we get Bolts of Inspiration from our god, and we can use the attack action to make one weapon attack as a bonus action. We can do this a number of times equal to our Wisdom modifier, which is why you may want to have your Wisdom modifier higher than your Con, but I would recommend Wisdom 3rd because you are still a tank. You want to survive. You want to have the Constitution as high as you can. What this means, though, is that all of a sudden we go from attack because of our main attack or extra attack to now bonus action attack. So for at least 5 rounds of combat at level 20 with a 20 Wisdom, we have attack because we also gain extra attack later on in our fighter level. So we have a baseline of 4 attacks. Pretty fucking impressive. We'll get into some supplemental spells after this. At level 2, we gain our Guided Strike. This is pretty helpful for ourselves. This is the point in which I was going to mention that instead of using just a Warhammer, we could possibly go to a maul and have a two-handed in one hand. So while we would be imposing disadvantage on ourselves, this Channel Divinity Guided Strike, granted it's only twice that you can do this per day, would grant us a plus 10 to a roll of 11. A roll of 11 plus 10, that's a 21. It's probably going to hit. It's going to hit a lot of stuff. I think that hits like an adult dragon even. For our 4th level Cleric ASI, I decided to go with Constitution Wisdom. This was just so I can start to get these up right away. I couldn't decide. Like it just felt better than any feat option. At 5th level, we get a Destroy Undead. This is only ever going to get up to CR of 1 or lower. It's still pretty decent. You can take out whole swaths of undead, which is pretty impressive. And you may even have another Cleric, so you can do this quite a bit, especially if you're in an undead heavy campaign. And pretty much every campaign, there's going to be undead. They're a pretty staple enemy. And then finally, at our 6th level, we gain our War God's Blessing. This is where we can transfer that plus 10 to hit to another DPS character. So this is again being us, making us into that force multiplier that we want to be. We want to be able to protect our group. We want to be able to aid them in doing damage and give them the necessary tools that they don't have themselves, so that they can perform as best as they can. At 8th level, we gain our Divine Strike. This is only ever going to be a 1d8. However, this is something that you can save for a critical hit. And at 8th level, we gain our final ASI in the Cleric. Chose a feat, went with Warcaster. We already have a proficiency in Constitution saving throws, so pretty fucking impressive. Now we have advantage on them. That's awesome to maintain our spells. And talking about spells, we're going to go ahead and get into that. So as we can see here for spells, we have some always prepared spells. We have Divine Favor, not a bad spell to have, giving everyone a 1d4 radiant damage on hit, not bad. But Shield of Faith is where it really comes in, granting a plus 2 to AC. So at level 20, if you want to put this on yourself, all of a sudden you're at 28 AC. Like, that's impressive. And you also have so you may not even get hit, first of all. And then you have a very high Constitution saving throw to start with, and you have Warcaster now. So you have advantage on those saving throws to maintain this. So even putting this onto somebody else, like maybe there's a support or a DPS that's maybe a bit under-armored, and whatever, but like you can help people out. You can be that force multiplier to benefit people so that they may survive longer. Magic weapon isn't bad, but not amazing. Our spiritual weapon is pretty dope. So for our War Priest ability, we only get to use that to a number of how many times we have for our wisdom modifier. So in my case, it's 5. But with this, all of a sudden, once we're out of the War Priest ability, we can cast our spiritual weapon, and that will be our bonus attack. So no matter what we're doing, we're always going to have that bonus action to attack. And I would recommend burning through your War Priest abilities first to have that extra attack, because this way you're saving a spell slot, and it benefits you quite a bit. Crusader's Mantle is, of course, pretty nice. I mean, why not? Spirit Guardians is amazing. Freedom of Movement, amazing. Stone Skinned, amazing. All these abilities are fantastic. Now let's get into some spells that you could choose that I feel like would be really beneficial to this character. As for our cantrips, I would recommend taking Guidance, Light, Sacred Flame, and Thaumaturgy, or even Spare the Dying. Spare the Dying is pretty useful. Now for our Sacred Flame, this is something I need to really hit home on, is that with cantrips, they don't level up with your class level, they level up with your total level. So by the time we finally get our Sacred Flame at 6th level, first level Cleric, we're not doing a 1d8 damage, we're in fact doing a 2d8 damage. This is pretty impressive ranged ability. This is the closest thing I could think to Reinhardt's Flame Strike. It's a pretty impressive cantrip. This is going to be your main ranged ability. Guidance is also probably my favorite cantrip in the game, to be perfectly honest, giving people a 1d4 on their ability check choices. This gives you the chance to not necessarily role play out yourself lock picking that thing, but to give someone a blessing or guidance on like the wisdom or something. You can take this and roleplay it out many different ways. You can take part in helping people with skill checks. Light, because you're a fucking human and you're blind, you may need to find goggles of night vision, but there's other ways around it. And Spare the Dying, because you don't want to be burning spell slots all the time, because people will keep dropping. And if people keep dropping, you need to get the fuck out. Alright, so some first level spells that I would recommend that you take. Bane and Bless, they're amazing abilities. Cure Wounds, because for obvious reasons, for yourself and for others, pulling people up. You're not so focused on healing. That's not this character. This character is focused on providing utility and providing a meat shield for people. And of course, Healing Word, and Sanctuary is a beautiful, beautiful ability to have. Maybe you have someone in your group that purely just wants to heal. You cast this on them, all of a sudden they don't need to be casting a spell slot for Sanctuary on themselves, which gives them an extra healing ability. And if they're never attacking anything, it's going to be on them the entire time. Alright, and for some second level spells, I would recommend for taking Hold Person, Lesser Restoration, Silence, and Zone of Truth. Silence, pretty good. Lesser Restoration, you never know when you're going to need to cure a blind, deaf, paralyze, or poison effect. Hold Person is an amazing ability to have. And as speaking of Hold Person, this is the closest thing I could think to as like a Reinhardt Shatter. There's no abilities I could necessarily think of that would just mass stun people. And if there was one, that'd be extremely powerful and broken in Dungeons & Dragons. As for some third level spells, I would recommend taking Daylight, just because you never know where you're going to need to deal with some vampires. Remove Curse, amazing for removing curses. And Revivify for very obvious reasons. It's a pretty broken fucking spell, and why not take it if someone goes down? Another really good one to take for third level is, of course, Beacon of Hope, especially with how high your Constitution saving throws are and having advantage on it. This will allow your supports to benefit from you, because now all of a sudden they're healing for full amount. They don't need to roll dice, they're doing whatever, and you're able to maintain that concentration on being that Beacon of Hope. As for fourth level spells, I mean, there's some useful spells here. Banishment's not bad. Control Water. They all, like, every spell here is for unique situations, and I would recommend taking what you feel is necessary for what you're about to go up against. So with that Cleric out of the way, let's go ahead back into the fighter class. We already went over the maneuvers, so let's go over what else we invested into. So at our 6th level, we went ahead and invested into Resilient Wisdom. This increased our Resilient score modifier by 1 because we went up by 2, and gave us proficiencies in a saving throw that is one of the more common saving throws. Overall, pretty decent fucking win, I'd say. Know your enemy. This is another outside of combat role-playing thing that you could do. Getting to know whoever. This is again campaign dependent though. This is DM dependent. At 8th level, I chose Sentinel. There again is reason for possibly taking Mage Slayer. Mobile is another really good one, being able to get in and out of areas. I really like the idea with Sentinel, however, because I didn't want things to necessarily run away, or maybe there's someone that's trying to run past me and trying to get into the back line, for example, or something like that, and I can prevent them from getting there, and I can be that that barrier of entry. Of course, Mage Slayer is an absolutely amazing ability, especially for this character, because by the time we hit 20th levels, again, we're going to have 4 attacks. All of a sudden, those 4 attacks, they're going to be having a disadvantage to their saving throws to maintaining concentration. Pretty fucking dope. And eventually, they're going to roll poorly. And as for the Charger feat, the reason why I didn't take it is because it really just doesn't benefit you as much. This Charger feat, like, it's okay. You know, +5 bonus the attack damage roll if we make a melee attack and hit. You know, like pushing people 10 feet away. Why would we want to, like, if we're charging into somebody, we don't want to push them away. We want to be with them. So, like, the Charger feat in this game, in Dungeons and Dragons, I didn't feel like it was necessarily as powerful as Reinhardt's charge is. And Reinhardt's charge in Overwatch is a very, very, very high risk. And depending on how good of a Reinhardt you are, it's a high risk, low reward, a high risk, high reward. I lean towards it being a high risk, high reward, because if you can get a pin off, you're fucking solid. But if you don't, you're throwing the game. So I didn't feel like Charger was appropriate. So I would recommend either Sentinel or Mage Slayer, even Mobile, because being able to move around faster is pretty fucking dope. So at our 9th level, for Fighter, we gain all of a sudden Indomitable, allowing us to reroll one of the, like, a poor saving throw that we got. Maybe we're about to be charmed or something. It's why wouldn't you want this as Reinhardt? You want to be able to live through whatever's going on. This is where we at 10th level gain our superiority die increase to a D8. From a D8 to a D10. At 11th level, we finally gain our extra attack. This is where we can attack 3 times. So all of a sudden, I believe we're level 19 at this point. Yeah, we're 19. We can do attack, War Priest attack. Once those War Priests ends out, we cast up our spiritual weapon, and we are still attacking 4 times. So pretty impressive. For our final feat, I chose the Resilient to Dexterity. This is because I felt it was very beneficial to this character with how much the Shield Master already adds onto it, as well as a lot of damage that we won't be taking. Possibly there's going to be, again, less damage that our group can be taking if we can work it out with our DM, that maybe there's an item, or maybe immediately just behind me, if they're, like, hiding behind, they won't take as much damage from the Dragon's Breath because I'm preventing that damage. Another good one, of course, if you don't want that for some odd reason. So Tough would increase your health by 40 points, again, making you more of a meat shield. So it's not bad. I originally went with Tough, but then I had a lot of thought on it, and I really felt like more resilient was a far better choice for us. So yeah, that's about it. That's all I could think about for. So, like, as we can see here, for some reason it only says a +8. There's a situational bonus up here that it doesn't add. That situational bonus is in fact our Shield Master. So with our shield being a what was it? So at 20th level we get 2 AC +3, so that's 5. So we add 5 onto our Dexterity saving throws, which makes our Dexterity saving throws the highest one that we actually have here, because it makes it a +13. So that's pretty impressive. Of course, depends on how much you've rolled for, or perhaps you're using, what's it called, point buy or one of the other systems. So yeah, on top of just having high armor class, high saving throws, the ability to protect our group through either moving them in or out of position, through giving them opportunity of an advantage from giving your enemies a disadvantage, them as they're moving out of the opportunity of attack range, allowing them to still have their action to be able to, gamble with if they actually get hit or not. There's a lot of shit here that you can do to help your team to be that force multiplier. That if you aren't multi-classing and there's no feats, then you might just want to go full paladin. I don't know. It's like Battle Master. You could just go straight Battle Master too. Battle Master's a pretty good Reinhardt build, so it's either straight Battle Master for Rein or a maybe a devotion paladin. I know I really felt like this was most beneficial towards helping our group, staying alive, benefiting them with attacks, and making sure people can't get through to hurt them, and hurting those who would hurt our friends, that kind of shit. So really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you took some maybe inspiration away from it. Maybe you're gonna like the build enough to play it. Yeah, have fun with it. Have a lovely day.